Everyone, good evening to our viewers. Welcome to the Evening Review Show. I'm your host, Matthias Aufiko. Well, the election season is in full swing and political parties are crisscrossing the country, canvassing and lobbying for support. Of course, today the Electoral Commission of Namibia held the nomination ceremony for the candidates who would be on the ballot come 27 November. We have in studio tonight Mr. Kavekotora. He's the president of the Rally for Democracy and Progress. Mr. Kavekotora, good evening and welcome to the Evening Review.
Good evening. Nice to have me.
It's good to have you back. It's been a while.
Well, that's the first time to invite me this year, so it's not really my fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, no, we'll take the blame for that.
But it's true. I was quite busy. I was running around.
Yes. Yeah. Election season is here. Politicians, this is the time that you guys don't sleep. You are all over. How is it going so far?
I told my wife that because she started to complain already. I told her that after the 27th, I will have to take a break and go somewhere and just switch off and just enjoy life because it has been very hectic. Yeah. It's still going to be very hectic moving from now to the 27th of November. I think this election of 2024 is a heavily contested one. It's one election that, in my view, we are now at a crossroad. That is one of the reasons that I got out of Parliament, to have enough time to prepare the party for this election. Yeah. It is also, it requires a high degree of maturity, political maturity, because anything can go wrong. Anything can go wrong, and that's why I'm also worried about some of the development with ECN. You know, telling people now, stakeholders, that they cannot go through the normal process of the tender process and they have to select a printing company in this type of an election. It's just a build-up to problems moving forward, because in my view, that will be the beginning of a challenge moving forward, because, I mean, normally transparency requires prudent way of doing things. Yeah. But to wait until the last minute and then tell your stakeholders that you can't do, the proper way and you have to find shortcuts to print papers, to me that is inexcusable. Yeah. There was no justification whatsoever for that. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. We are, and I'm happy that most political parties have learned a lesson in previous elections. So their eyes will be very much open to see what could possibly go wrong, and perhaps also to intervene at an early age in order to prevent anything to go wrong. Yeah. So, and Namibia is really at a crossroad, and I hope the ECN, the reasons that they gave for not having a proper tender process, I hope they are telling us the truth. Yeah. And I hope that they are determined to have a free, fair, and credible election come the 27th of November, 2024. Because in the absence of that, democracy will be challenged. Democracy could be thrown out of the window. And that is something that none of us would want to see.
Yeah. You say this election is crucial because we are at the crossroads as a country. And most parties have been speaking along those lines, that this is a do-or-die moment. These elections are the most important since 1989. What is it about these elections that gives this sense of from here on is you are at the cliff's edge? From here it's just downward spirit.
We are moving. It's almost like a paradigm shift in my view, because previously we had an emotional politics. People voted on the basis of historical alliance and emotional, who liberated this country was an issue. My parents were, they belong to this political party, therefore I will toe the line and basically vote for that. But one of the biggest change, or the biggest determining factor this time around, in my view, is the youth. You see, the youth is a totally different segment with different characters also, because the youth have got a much better understanding of what they define as, or what they expect from independence. You cannot go to youth, and I experienced that myself. You cannot go to the youth and simply say, vote for me because I was responsible for liberating this country. To them, that does not make any sense. It's a question of what's in it for me. How do you satisfy my needs as a youth? And they have specific issues that they're focusing on. They will, as a matter of fact, they will be the one to interrogate you, say, what, you want my vote. What are you going to do about employment creation? What are you going to do about the housing issue? What are you going to do about the 800 people who are dying of hunger in Omaheke? You know, they are more issue-based as opposed to emotionally voting pattern. So that change in pattern, in my view, is quite significant. It will challenge us as politicians to not only come to the youth and expect them just to follow us blindly. That blind trust is also diminishing. People are looking for issues. How do you address issues, and what are you going to put on the table? How are you going to change the current situation? Because, I mean, they went through, they observed what happened over the period of 34 years. So they want to see how you're going to change the status quo. And so that to me is quite significant, because it's not business as usual.
The paradigm shift you're talking about, if you have to juxtapose it with the traditional ways that our political organizations have been operating over the years, do you think parties have evolved to meet the demands of that comes as a result of this shift that you referred to earlier on?
It will be to our disadvantage if we don't adapt and we move along with the current scene. Because if we, you see, that's why I'm saying that in the past it was an issue of blind trust and blind followers, and I think now you have to follow the expectations and the demand of the voters. So from that perspective, it's no longer you in control. It's you satisfying the need of the customer, and in this case, the voter. So they put certain things on the table. Well, obviously, I'm talking. I'm not generalizing it. I'm talking to a specific segment of the market. Obviously, there will be people who will still continue to vote traditionally because of that value system that is stuck in their mind. But apart from that, you have a much bigger segment, which is the youth that will want to lead you, not the other way around. So I think you need to speak to their need, and I think any political party that believes that they can still garnish votes from the traditional way of politics, they are totally wrong.
Another aspect, as far as the youth is concerned, we've seen this time around most of the parties on their parliamentary lists. Most of them have young candidates on those lists, as young as 21, 22. And this is something that's unheard of in the past. What brought about this shift? And is it a genuine move towards youth empowerment, or is it a thing of, let's just have someone there because there is a big constituency there called the youth, and we need their votes, so let's sort of appease them? Is it really a genuine attempt to get the youth on the table of where decisions are made?
I think when you are pressurized to move in a certain corner, you can either move systematically, or you can be forced to overreact. I think in some instances I see an overreaction by some political parties, bringing in the youth. And that to me is also somewhat dangerous, because I don't think that the youth that are out there will simply vote for a youth simply because they are 21. Again, the question will be, what are you going to deliver? So, and I think that overreaction, in my view, is also very dangerous, in the sense that as much as the youth need to lead, there is also a degree of experience that you have to build into the system to make sure that you balance the youth who are quite aggressive, who want things to be done quicker, who might even burn fingers simply because they are still going through a learning process. So I think if that balancing act is not in place, then you might find that some political parties simply overreacted, and that will be to their detriment, in my view, because the experience, because I mean, for instance, if I face a situation or a problem there, because of what I've gone through in life, I would say, okay, I had a similar problem when I was the CEO of Transnamib or Telecom, and that's how we resolved that matter. Therefore, I can basically draw from that experience and resolve this matter. But if somebody never gone through that process, you find that sometimes the decision-making process will ignore some of the variables that could influence the outcome of whatever you put forth. So that's why I'm saying that there must be a balance between youth and experience in our political landscape. Otherwise, I don't think that we will get what we are expecting from the youth.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Kavekotora, we wait for a short commercial break, and we'll be back to continue this conversation. To our viewers, wait for a short break. Stay tuned. Allow me to welcome you back from that short break. Mr. Kavekotora, just to continue our conversation, and at the same time also just shift the dynamics of the conversation a bit towards inner party matters. We've seen over the past, I might say, a year or two, there's been a litany of court cases, especially challenging your mandate as president of the party. What's going on? What is the situation right now? You are heading into elections. Yesterday, the party was in court again for another case, which was eventually thrown out. That was, of course, in your favor. What is the situation like? What is going on? Why is the party struggling to bring everyone onto the table if everyone is genuinely fighting for the good of the party?
Yeah, I think that's what the public should judge. Yesterday, before I go back to where it all started, so yesterday we had a court case in the High Court. The challenge was to challenge our convention that was held in Rundu recently, and to nullify that. Now, that was yesterday. Yesterday was my birthday. It was the closing date of the submission to ECN. I think that should tell any analytical body that what the intentions were. The intentions were, Kanti wanted RDP not to participate in this upcoming election, because if he was the genuine president of the party, he should have had a list on standby. He should have had his convention held. He should have had gone through an electoral college to make sure that once he succeeds in a court, at least RDP will go and participate in the election. Yeah. He did none of that. All he did is simply to go to court and to try to nullify a rightful convention. I think that will give you the motive behind Kandi's challenges. These challenges started way back in. We had our third convention on the 2nd of June 2019. 3 months down the line, Kandi came in and started challenging the unchallengeable. The reason I'm saying unchallengeable is that mathematically, when you have 3 parties competing, and the rule says that whoever gets 51% or 50 plus 1% is the winner. And the 2 parties, the sum of the 2 parties is less than the sum of the 1 party. It shows that the 1 party has exceeded the 50 plus 1%. That's a mathematical reality. That is what Kandi challenged. In the process, obviously, he has to give reasons, the real reasons behind his challenge. And one of the reasons that I believe was more prominent from his challenge is that he sees RDP as a Kwanyama party. And therefore he could not get it in his mind, and he even went to the point of ignoring the constitution of RDP on how and why RDP was established. RDP is a mass-based political party where each and every Namibian is welcome not only to be a member, but also to participate in leadership and what have you. So at this age, because all the time I was trying to understand the motives behind Kandi's things. I think I'm almost comparing him to Muammar Gaddafi when the Americans invaded his country. When he got out, he simply just proclaimed that I'm still the president of this country. And I think that thinking is stuck in Kandi's mind. Unfortunately, all the efforts and the attempt that he made in court, obviously, because that's what we advise him to do, said the best thing for you is just to go to court. He lost on all count. He went to the electoral tribunal, he lost. He went to the electoral court, he lost. He went back to the electoral court, he lost. He went to the High Court recently, and he also lost. In the previous cases, the case was basically just dismissed on the basis of the court does not have jurisdiction over it. In the last one of yesterday, he lost, and the case was scrapped from the roll. So that is how I analyzed and concluded what Kandi is doing.
Yeah.
It is really unfortunate in the sense that you see, when people are fighting, the people on the periphery who are watching, they are confused. Some of them will side with you, others will side with me, and that's what happened at RDP. Some people thought that Kandi was fighting a genuine fight, and they sided with him, until some of them fell off, obviously, realizing that the motives are not the one that we thought he would be fighting for.
Yeah.
So it really was detrimental to the party. We could have had a much more united party if it was not for the intervention of Kandi trying to derail the situation. However, having said that, I think that's also one of the reasons that I said, no, let me get out and let me try to recoup the losses that has been incurred as a result of Kandi intervention, especially in the north, especially in Ohangwena, not the whole north, because Oshana and Oshikoto are not very much involved in siding with Kandi. But in Ohangwena, you find certain elements that are still with Kandi. And I remember even when we were on our way to launch our convention, our manifesto, there were some of our cadres who were saying that, no, we are not going to participate in some of these meetings. We still have to wait for the outcome. of the court case. So that tells you that some of the people were actually sort of siding with Kandi from that perspective.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, also, the one thing that does not stuck in Kandi's mind is that in March 2021, Kandi was officially expelled from RDP. He was fired from RDP, him with other 3 members, on the basis of we realized that he is really trying to destroy the party. So we call upon a disciplinary hearing. He obviously did not show up, and in absentia, he was found guilty, and he was expelled from the party. But the population and you news people, you refuse to accept that Kandi was fired from I don't know why you're doing it, but you still refuse.
Yeah.
You call him the president of RDP, but at least the court now have demonstrated to you that there's only one genuine president of RDP, and that's Kavekotora, who was now, on the 7th of September, re-elected unanimously in Rundu.
So, of course, you've mentioned how this situation has impacted the party. When you went for your launch of the manifesto, some members decided to stay away. What is the party doing to manage this situation with elections, of course, fast approaching? This could see you mentioned that you feel Kandi thinks this is still a Kwanyama party. And that vote, Hangwena vote, how are you managing the situation?
No, I'm not talking in absolute terms. I'm honestly speaking. I mean, when we were in Ngwediva recently, when we launched our manifesto, there was a bus that came from Hangwena. I intentionally also held most of our National Executive Committee meetings in Ohangwena for people to see that RDP is still alive. I remember once where we were supposed to have our meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I talked to my colleagues, my leaders, and I said, no, let's go through the streets of Helauna Findi with our party attires on and just see the reaction. The reaction was overwhelming. It was like, wow, are you guys still around? I said, yeah, we are alive and kicking. I think that time we recruited about 50 young people just on the spot before we had our meeting at 2 o'clock. So what I'm saying is that we have teams on the ground. We also have teams in Ohangwena at the moment. We dispatch our election material to the whole country, and the response is positive. I haven't seen a negative response in Ohangwena simply because of Kandi, and I'm sure that now that the people also knows that Kandi is no longer a factor and Kandi has lost all these challenges, I'm sure some of the people who decided to go somewhere else, it's not a question of being sure, it's a question of some people have already started to talk to us and say they would want to come back to the party.
Yeah.
So I'm positive. From that perspective, obviously, we could have done better. But I also look at some of our colleagues' manifesto, and I really believe we have a better manifesto. We have something quite significant to offer the Namibian people, comparatively speaking. I believe that our message is not only based on the current situation. I think if you have followed me quite well in Parliament, you would have realized that I was focusing on matters that matters to the men on the street. That was my core focus, and I did it intentionally. First of all, you have a situation, for instance, in Namibia about wealth, the distribution of wealth. As we speak now, after I left Parliament a year ago, there is a motion that was tabled by yours truly about wealth distribution, because I cannot, and our RDP cannot follow the notion that the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. Then there is something fundamental wrong with what we have been doing for 35, 34 years. You will see that housing in Namibia is a serious problem, to the point that we have about 350,000 units, a backlog of 350,000 units. Mass housing have done nothing to that because the planning in mass housing was completely absent. There was no market research, there was nothing. As a matter of fact, the government was not even supposed to have played in the market that they built those houses for. Government resources should have been applied to social housing and not a house that is costing $600,000. Let me give you an example. There are 57 houses constructed in Karasberg. All of them unoccupied. Why? Because the people in Karasberg, their disposable income is about $2,000 on average, below up to $2,000. This house of $600,000 requires you to even have an earning of $20,000 or $24,000 in order to afford that. So why would you want to waste resources in such a way? So mass housing, that's why I called mass housing a mess. You have 800 people who died of hunger in a rich country like ours. So what we are saying at RDP is that, colleagues, let us go back to the basics. Let us address those issues that matters to the men on the street. Food security, housing, health, education, employment. Those are the core message that we are sending to our people, and we also have solutions to those things. It's not just saying, we're going to build houses. We're not addressing just the what. We're addressing the how. How are we going to do it? For instance, we are saying, if you look at successful countries, Singapore, Rwanda, you find that instead of going horizontal in social housing, they go up. The unit cost will go down, because if you put 2-3 stories on 1,200 square meter earth, you could accommodate more people there. And where does the money come from? From all over. We have a country that is currently accommodating Chinese in the construction industry. Where does the money go? We ship money out to other countries. What we are saying is that we have enough competency here. We have Basters, the Basta community, who have been constructing the whole of Namibia before independence and after independence, before the Chinese came and took over. So what we are saying is that we must bring back the economy. Lastly, in terms of wealth distribution, I introduced something that RDPs, that many people don't even understand. What did we fight for as a country? We fought for land. Analyze the development of land since independence. You will come to the conclusion that the land still lies in the hands of those who had it before independence. How do we make sure that, because land is one of the means of production, how do we ensure that wealth is equally distributed? I introduced something during our manifesto launch, that we need to have a system that progressively attack land and wealth. So that, and land specifically from an inheritance perspective. So, but I mean, if I acquire land, or if I got land from my grandfather, who acquired that land through colonialism, is it justifiable just to continue that land going to that? Or should we tax a certain portion of that land so that the wealth can be distributed to the community? So these are some of the hows that of addressing some of the problems that we are facing.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Kavekotora, thank you very much for your time this evening.
We're done.
And yes,
Oh.
you have to go and campaign. Thank you very much, and we wish you well during your campaign work, and
Yeah.
be safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, to our viewers, that's it from the team this evening. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place.